Greetings, this is Ty Brown. I am here with Seth Shigg. Seth is a quarterback from the class of 2025. We're here to talk about some inflection points in his life in terms of leadership, in terms of being a student athlete, and in terms of who he is. Greetings, Seth. I'm glad you're on with us.
Me too. It's a blessing.
What I know about you is the student and the student athlete is just as much of a priority as the athlete part for you. Academics is very important. So talk to me a little bit about academics and why that's important to you.
There's many reasons why I'd say academics are important to me. My parents really instilled that mindset in me from a
Right.
young age, but me being around a lot of athletes and seeing a lot of friends get hurt and not having another outlet after sports, I'm really big on like giving myself another opportunity after sports to succeed. In academics, it doesn't come as easy for me as sports do, and you got to put a lot of time and effort into it. And so I try to always stay on that and make sure I have another outlet. God forbid something goes wrong.
Is there one aspect of academics that you find yourself always kind of migrating to? Like, is there a subject that you find?
Definitely the science.
Science?
I love
Tell us
science.
about that a little bit.
Um, well, it started watching these sci-fi movies. Like, I'm big in the superhero universe. So The Flash was like one of my favorite shows growing up. And so they talked a lot about chemistry and genetics, and I kind of just fell in love with that
Oh, really?
aspect of science.
Yeah.
And then, in high school, those classes, they start teaching you about those things, and you get to find out what's real and what's not. And then you learn about all these people in the world who actually have problems. And you find out that as a kid, it's not just a movie, you can actually solve them. And so I kind of want to apply myself and see what I can do out there in the
Really?
world outside of being an athlete.
You are the type of student who will raise your hand in class, whether you have the answer or if you have a question. And sometimes other students look at that, they may look down upon you for that, right? Because it's like, who you trying to outdo everybody, trying to show us all out. But realistically, you're just engaged in class, right? There are even some teachers that don't like that. But there are some teachers who value that.
Right.
Tell me about why that's important to you to be able to answer questions or to be able to ask questions in class.
So, me personally, raising my hand in class, being the first to go for projects, asking questions, even down to asking questions, it's always been big in my mind because I feel like I treat it as practice.
Okay.
When you're in life, when you're going to an interview, when you're in a seminar, anywhere where you're having to talk to people, to the public, I feel like these little times where you're raising your hand, you're not afraid to put yourself out there. That boosts your confidence, that boosts your morale for whenever you're doing something in front of the public.
Right.
And I feel like, for example, it's as simple as asking a question. If you ask that question, how do you know that that question isn't something else that somebody may have needed to have answered within
Exactly.
your class? So I feel like I'm doing people a favor when I'm asking questions mostly. And when I'm giving answers, it's just to, you know, honestly just put effort in the class, let the teacher know I'm engaged. And it's really that simple to
Yeah,
me.
it is 100%. What is your definition of leadership and how you define a leader?
I'd say there's a lot of things that tie into my definition of leadership and being a leader. I'd say having an infectious personality is probably the number one noticeable thing about being a leader because they always get people to flock to their ways of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
how they act. And I'd say that being vulnerable is a big part of being a leader, like showing people that you're not afraid to be wrong, not
Right.
afraid to show your weaker parts. It gets them encouraged to, you know, rock with you in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
And I'd say that taking accountability for your mistakes and for your actions is a big thing of being a leader because it makes you more trustworthy around your peers. And it shows them that you're willing to take the blame even when something necessarily isn't your fault. And that makes you a more likable person. So.
So, infectious personality, being
Vulnerability.
vulnerable, and what was the last one?
And I'd say taking
And
accountability.
taking accountability. That's
Absolutely.
important. Let's look at those three things. Now, infectious personality can go in different ways, right? Because
Right.
you could be negative, right? You could be somebody that leads people the wrong way or what's perceived as the wrong way, but have an infectious personality and have people follow you. So there's probably another layer to that.
I'll use me for an example.
Okay.
I'm a very like joking person, and I always find myself jiving with everyone.
Hmm.
And for example, at my high school right now, nobody likes to really hang out with the linemen, but I got to know right away when I got in there, the linemen are the chillest people in the group.
Yeah.
And I'm always that guy dancing. We're gonna play music, we're gonna tell jokes, and I like to be infectious in a way that we get everybody on the same morale and everybody's spirits up. And I think that part of being a leader is the part I consider infectious.
So keep people up, keep people happy,
Absolutely.
motivated, positivity. I think that's important. When you say infectious, you want to say there's a positive aspect to it, because an infectious leader could be Hitler, right?
Right.
Which is crazy. Vulnerability is something a lot of people don't have, right? And if I'm in an environment that I want to be in and there's a great leader, I do want to see that that person can relate. I want to see that that person is not trying to be perfect and they are, as a human, trying to evolve like the rest of us are, right? Give us a little bit of insight into that vulnerability, and if you have an example of it, it would be great.
Vulnerability. I'd say in the film room, it goes in being the new quarterback in the quarterback room. Necessarily coach asks you what a play is or asks you to draw up a coverage. You might not know. You might be new to the offensive scheme, but showing the receivers and the running backs in the room that you're willing to jump on the board, you're willing to write out your thoughts and what you think is the possible solution, it gives everybody around you an opportunity, whether you're right or wrong, to say, dang, maybe I could go up there. Maybe I have the right answer. And vulnerability in that sense, showing that you're willing to go up there no matter the outcome, is a very big part of being a leader.
I worked a long time with football coaches, and I had to come up with the definition of accountability, and I want to know if it jives with your definition. Accountability is twofold. It is the responsibility of the individual for the actions of the whole, and the responsibility of the whole for the actions of the individual. Right? Does that make sense? So tell me how either that applies to your definition of accountability, or just tell me what your definition of accountability is.
Okay, well, I'll give you two examples.
Okay.
First, in football, I'd say that applies a lot
Mm-hmm.
because, you're not always gonna have a perfect game. Me as a quarterback, I could have an amazing game and throw a pick at the end of the game. And it's going in those interviews and it's not mentioning, oh, what I did in the beginning. It's not mentioning the missed block by the line. It's mentioning that pick, mentioning that's my mistake. We're gonna get it back the next time.
Right.
That's what being a leader is. And then accountability, in the other sense, can be you at your siblings' house. You guys are having a function. They do something to get in trouble. You guys are all in trouble, but you take the blame. You know what I mean? That's the
That's the word
whole.
accountability, right?
Yes,
Responsibility for the whole
it
as
goes
an
both
individual.
ways.
Yep, I got that. I give you an analogy on the field. The crowd doesn't cheer unless the receiver catches a touchdown pass, right? The receiver doesn't catch the touchdown pass unless the quarterback throws it to him. The quarterback doesn't throw it to him unless the offensive line blocks for him. And the offensive line doesn't block for him unless the coaches teach him how. So you need everybody on the field to make that play happen so that the crowd cheers. So everybody's involved in the game of football, every
Absolutely.
last person, right? Tell me about your love of the game of football.
My favorite part about football, I guess, is like the adrenaline like you get when you're playing in a game, and like being able to be on a team is like something that I like since I was like very little, and like helping your team, and like for me, I've been around these kids for like forever, so like getting them to a point where they're winning is like it's fun because we all get to do it. So that's bonding and teamwork is basically my favorite part about football.
Football is important to me, honestly, because it's probably the funnest thing I get to do every
Yeah,
weekend. And I love it because that raw, like, ability to go out there and really impact the game, really impact the night, really impact people's life and memories, it's really big for me. And another part that I love about the game is the competitive nature, being able to be relied on in the most important times. Even though that's a big responsibility, the adrenaline, I love feeling it. And also the bond you can create with people in football. You meet people from all walks of life. You learn things about people that you never thought you would see
right.
just off of looking at them. And I'd also say that, my dad, he's a big role in football for me. And being that he also played it when he was younger, I kind of want to take him along with my family to places we've never seen before.
As an athlete, maybe my intellect because like there are a lot of people that are fast, but like I think my ability to like, outsmart and outthink people on the football field is what makes it easy for me to play. Because like once I know what I'm doing, I can play without thinking. And when you don't think, you don't hesitate.
In terms of football, a few years ago, your father came to me and told me that, hey, man, Seth told me that, Dad, I'm a quarterback, right? Like, I played other positions, but quarterback is what I am. This is what I do. Tell me about what went into you making that decision.
What makes a great quarterback, I think, is the ability to fight through adversity, like as well as having some selfishness in like hard games and stuff, where like taking the team on your shoulders, but also being able to get your teammates active in the game and the ability to form a bond with your teammates so that you guys can be successful, and the leadership role, basically, because quarterbacks, all great quarterbacks are leaders.
I'd say probably my personality and what I love most about the game is what definitely tied into me choosing to play quarterback full time and identifying myself as a quarterback. 'Cause I'd say working with others, being responsible for the success partially of others, and being able to manage so many parts of the game at once is something I definitely like to do. And being able to rely on others to make me successful as well is something that went into me wanting to play quarterback full time. And I'd say that I'm smart personally, and quarterback, you have to be smart. And so I feel like all the intangibles that I had naturally growing up really pointed to quarterback. And
Yeah.
so one day I just told my dad, I was like, this is what I want to do. I feel like I make it.
Leadership in terms of the quarterback position, right? Accountability. Everything we said kind of ties into that responsibility of the individual for the actions of the whole and responsibility of the whole for the actions of the individual. Tell me about that leadership from the quarterback position. I mean,
Quarterback position.
you're mixing and mingling with everybody. There's a communication with the coach. There's a big
Absolutely.
aspect of the whole team. Yeah.
So we could take it back to aspects of being a leader completely different than what I mentioned.
Right.
Go back to being infectious. So being infectious in terms of being a quarterback and being a leader, like CJ Stroud said a few weeks ago, it's about like not yawning in the film room. It's about always being attentive, sitting in the front of the film room, because infectious energy and your actions around the facility, your teammates pick up on that, and they can always refer back to how is he doing, how is his energy when the game isn't going right. So that's being a leader. Being a leader is also having a good rapport with your coach, having a very good relationship, because once you get on that field, you are the coach. They're looking through you. You are a direct reflection of what the coach has taught the team as a whole. And so I'd say really getting into a good relationship with your coach is a part of being a leader. And I'd say the biggest part of being a leader as a quarterback is not being phased. Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Bryce Young, they're always so mellow. It could be going very bad. It could be going very good.
Yeah.
You'll never know what it is. They're always calm. They keep their team calm. And I'd say that's a very big part of being a leader. A leader is not easily phased by whatever circumstances they're going through, good or bad.
Yeah.
So I'd say those three things are really big.
That's excellent. You mentioned earlier that sometimes people don't pay attention to the line, right?
Right.
That's offensive and defensive, the
Absolutely.
trenches in general, which are probably the most important part of the team, right? Tell me about your relationship with those guys coming up through the years, especially after you decided you want to play quarterback, and why you thought that relationship was important to with the line.
Basically, I'm gonna be honest, youth football, we didn't care about the line.
It
We
wasn't
we
important,
cared
right?
about we reversed the field for the touchdown. We
Yeah.
caught 3 picks today.
Uh-huh.
The line, half our line, especially where I played football growing up,
Mhm.
they wanted to be running backs. They wanted to be skill position players. So nobody really valued the true credibility behind being a lineman. But I'd say growing up, especially making the decision to play quarterback full time, you realize the line is where it's at,
Yeah.
because you will be badly hurt in a game if the line decided not to do their job. The line is responsible for the running backs' rushing yards, for me being able to pass the ball, for
I like
receivers
it.
being able to catch the ball. So I'd say being that one, they're already not getting credit, they need that quarterback, that guy in the room that lets them know I see you. I see what you're doing out there.
Yeah.
And so I always wanted to make sure that the most important foundation behind our whole offense and defense too is straight.
Tell me a little bit about patience.
Patience. So I'd
Patience,
say
right?
patience, it gives a person humility. You know, it really humbles you to be able to sit back and say, dang, I need to wait. I need to wait. I need to learn. Because from patience, I think you learn a lot. You learn from people's mistakes. You also see a lot about yourself, because there's a lot of people who, if thrown out in the fire early, they may think, oh, I'm ready, I can do this. But then when you're actually out there, it's a different perspective. And you realize you could use that time to sit back, use that time to wait, learn, ask the questions. So I say patience, it humbles you. You definitely get smarter from it. And I say it's admirable, you know? You don't always have to be the guy to take the first rep.
Yeah.
You don't always have to be the guy to go first to show everybody you're that guy. Being patient, people will look at you and really be like, oh, he's in the back. He's learning. The quiet ones always know the most, and they always wait
Yep.
until everybody
And they're learning
shows
right.
their hand, and then they're most successful.
Because it's not always easy to challenge a coach, or it's not
Right.
always easy to challenge another one of your players who, they might be older than you or something like that, or have something better than you, but you know that we probably can do a little better, or we can make a better decision. Tell me about that aspect in your
So I'd
career.
say challenging coaches, even teammates. That part of accountability, I think it really goes within trust
Yeah.
and that relationship that you have with that person. Because I feel like one, especially in my aspect, if you're new to the team or you're not the mouthiest guy on the team, then it's really you're in a very different position than somebody who's built a rapport with the team, who has asked the questions, who has been in that role for a long time. So I'd say it's really about trust and accountability, especially with my coach. There's times where I'm like, Coach, I see this or I see that on the field. And, it takes him to be like, he's made the right decisions. He's done what I've told him to do. Or my teammates saying, oh, he's had my back. He's told me to run this and he hit me there. It was open. So it takes times like that to build up for you to be able to ask the coach, can we run this or can we go here? Can we take this shot? Should we take the shot? Is it the best shot to take at this time? And so I feel like trust and accountability and within that relationship is really a big part. Trust, especially what my dad told me moving into this new school is it's leading by actions.
Okay.
It's going out there, it's making plays, it's being the humble guy, it's being the guy with your head down, working all the time, every day. It's being that guy to where your team slowly but surely comes along. The coaches notice you out there on the field after practice, before practice, for them to be like, okay, he really wants this. He has the same goal in mind that we do. He's putting in the same effort that we are. And then I feel like slowly but surely, that's when the team starts to trust you. And then you can start adding your input and being more vocal about it. But I feel like definitely actions is what gets people to trust you. Doing something or saying something and then doing it, following through on what you said you were going to do is a big part of someone trusting.
The concept of values. A lot of times when we make decisions, based on how we feel emotionally, right? And that's not always the best decision. Emotion will take you down the wrong path sometimes. So if we have in our lives, in our family, on our team, in our organization, in our company, if we have values that when a decision comes for us to make, we think, what decision can we make that makes sure we uphold our values, right? Instead of how we feel emotionally right now, what are those things that are set that can't be taken away from me, but help me make decisions in life? The question for you is, what are the things that are important to you that you would consider a value?
Well, I would say trust,
Uh huh.
you know. Um Aside from trust, I would also say how I'm viewed in the eye of others
Okay.
in bad times, if that makes sense. And so when it goes to reacting emotionally versus logically or whatever the situation may be, I say trust, you know, is that person going to be able to rely on you? I'm going to take it back to football. If you make a bad play, are you going to lose your head? Can that coach rely on you to come back the next play? So I feel like if I lose my head, that's breaking trust with the coach.
Yeah.
That's tarnishing my value. And I'd say how I'm viewed in the eyes of others, I'm always that happy go lucky, that inclusive person. So I feel like would I stop being myself because of how something made me feel or because of this temporary moment in time where stuff doesn't go my way or stuff
Right.
doesn't go right? Because I'd always say, and my dad always taught me that anything going wrong in that time being or the negatives in life, it's all temporary.
Right.
And would you want to throw something away for something so temporary and jeopardize your values, which are forever.
Skill is developed, talent we are born with, and luck is a blessing. But only one of those is in our control. So we have to keep working at a high level. Is that something that you agree with? I mean, you look at people who are
Absolutely.
great, right? Well, I think this has been a good conversation, and I
Absolutely.
really
Had a lot
appreciate
of fun.
really appreciate you joining us here in this interview. Hopefully, this interview will help you a little bit in life in terms of what you're trying to accomplish on the field and off the field. But thank you very much for taking the time
Thank
to
you.
do it. Yes, sir. That was Seth Shigg. He's a quarterback in the class of 2025. And of course, I am Ty Brown. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today.